Hello, welcome to those who haven't been here before, and welcome back to those who have watched before. Thanks for coming again. My name is Aaliyah Langley. As you can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be going over the books I read in March 2024. I have 6 books that I read in March, most of all, really good, and I'm happy to share them with you. So let's jump right in. The first book I have is The Covenant of Water, published in 2023 by Abraham Verghese. Let me give you a little synopsis. A stunning and magisterial new epic of love, faith, and medicine set in Kerala, the following 3 generations of a family seeking the answers of a strange secret. Spanning the years 1900 to 1977, The Covenant of Water is set in Kerala on South India's Malabar coast and following 3 generations of a family that suffers a peculiar affliction. In every generation, at least one person dies by drowning, and in Kerala, water is everywhere. The family is part of a Christian community that traces itself to the time of the apostles, but times are shifting, and the matriarch of this family, known as Big Amarak, literally Big Mother, will witness unthinkable changes at home and at large over the span of her extraordinary life. All of Verghese's great gifts are on display in this new work. There are astonishing scenes of medical ingenuity, fantastic moments of humor, a surprising and deeply moving story, and characters imbued with the essence of life. This book, for me, it took me a little bit to kind of get into it. I feel like, but once I kind of got into it, I got it, and once I kind of figured out the tone of everything, I was like, okay, I'm on the ride. It's a very melodic text. It really felt very, I don't know, it was kind of getting into the swing of it. Once you kind of get in there and you find the melody, then you're kind of okay, and it's flowing and it's good, and it's really a beautiful book, I thought. And like I said, you kind of, and this synopsis kind of gave, you connect with the family kind of right away to a level, and you kind of see them tracing the generations and figuring out what is this tragedy and how can we get past this, and what can we do. It's a pretty long book. It's about, on Kindle, I read it on, it was about almost 800 pages, but like I said, kind of once you, at least for me, once you kind of get into it, it's really nice and a really lovely read. I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. I read actually most of that I read about half of it in February, and I read the other half in March, so it was kind of one of those in-between or month books for me. My next book is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is a part of the Maple Hills series, I guess. Maple Hills 2 it is. I read Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, and I read that one because I read it end of last year because I saw it on TikTok, and I kept seeing things about it, and I was like, whatever, let me just read it. And I liked Icebreaker a lot, so I figured, okay, let me pick up Wildfire, see that's the next book. That book came out in 2023 as well. And that book, I didn't like it as much. I'll give you a synopsis, I guess, first of all, before I go into it too much. The latest in Maple Hills series follows 2 summer camp counselors who reconnect after a sizzling one-night stand. Maple Hills students Russ Callahan and Aurora Roberts cross paths at a party celebrating at the end of the academic year, where a drinking game results in them having a passionate one-night stand. Never one to overstay her welcome or expect much from a man, Aurora slips away before Russ even has a chance to ask for her full name. Imagine their surprise when they bump into each other on the first day of summer camp, where they are both counselors, hoping to escape their complicated home lives by spending the summer working. Russ hopes if he gets far enough away from Maple Hills, he can avoid dealing with the repercussions of his father's gambling addiction, while Aurora is tied to craving attention from everyone around her and wants to go back to the last place she truly felt at home. Russ knows breaking the camp's strict no staff fraternizing rule will have him heading back to Maple Hills before the summer is over, but unfortunately for him, Aurora has never been very good at caring about the rules. Will the two learn to peacefully coexist, or did their one night stand together start a fire they can't put out? So like I said, I read Icebreaker, which is by the same author, kind of like the book before. We met Russ in Icebreaker. He was a small character in there, so we saw him again and got to know more about him obviously in this book. But I didn't really like it as much. I was kind of disappointed because I feel like just because I had the expectation, it didn't really hit didn't hit as home. I don't know what I'm saying, but didn't hit as hard for me or whatever. So yeah, we follow them as they become counselors. Again, there's no fraternization, so you obviously kind of knows what happens there in these kind of books. They kind of are figuring out how they're going to maneuver that, and also just they connect on their complicated family situations, and they basically have to figure out, are we going to be together, are we not going to be together? It's just a quick situation, what are we doing when we go back to college, that whole kind of thing. Overall, I give that a 2 out of 5. Again, it just really wasn't for me. I feel like, if you read Icebreaker, you still can just read it. I think there's another one coming at some point too. So, and that book is about paperback. I got a paperback actually because moving on, but that book's around 400 pages or so. The next book was a book I was really excited about when I heard it was coming out. It's called Medgar and Myrlie, Medgar Evers, The Love Story That Awakened America, by Joy Ann Reid. It just got published in February this year. Again, when I heard this book was coming out, I knew I was going to read it. Medgar Evers is someone for my mother who was one of her favorite civil rights hero from the time she was a little girl. So I was like, okay, I have to go read this. And also, Joy Ann Reid, the author, was doing a book signing in my city, so I went and got a book for my mother and got it signed and everything like that. And it was a great little book talk, and it's just Medgar Evers is someone who I was lucky enough to be able to know about him just through my mother. Obviously, he was not someone I don't think I learned about in school, and even about people not knowing him. At the book kind of talk and signing, the person introducing Joy Ann Reid kept saying Medgar Evers, and I was saying afterwards, I was like, he doesn't even know how to say his name. Like, that's like crazy to me that you don't know how to say Medgar Evers, you even know who Medgar Evers is, or you'd say his name wrong like that. So this book is really just, well, I guess we give you a synopsis, I guess I keep just jumping here. The host of MSNBC's The Readout and New York Times bestselling author of The Man Who Sold America traces an extraordinary lives and legacy of civil rights icons, Medgar and Myrlie Evers. Situating Medgar Evers' assassination as a catalyzing moment in American history, Myrlie Louise Beasley met Medgar Evers on her first day of college. They fell in love at first sight, married just 1 year later, and Myrlie left school to focus on her growing family. Medgar became the field secretary for the Mississippi branch of the NAACP, charged with beating back the most intraceable and violent resistance to black voting rights in the country. Myrlie served as Medgar's secretary and confidant, working hand in hand with him as they struggled against public accommodations and school segregation, lynching, violence, and sheer despair within their state's black belt. They fought to desegregate the intractable, University of Mississippi's organized picket lines and boycotts despite repeated terroristic threats, including the 1962 firebombing on their home where they lived with their 3 young children. On June 12, 1963, Medgar Evers became the highest profile victim of a Klan-related assassination of a black civil rights leader at the time, gunned down in the couple's driveway in Jackson. In the wake of his tragic death, Myrlie carried out their civil rights legacy, writing a book about Medgar's fight, trying to win a congressional seat, and becoming a leader of the NAACP in her own right. In this groundbreaking and thrilling account of 2 heroes of the civil rights movement, Joy Ann Reid uses Medgar and Myrlie's relationship as a lens through which to explore the on-ground work that went into winning basic rights for Black Americans and the repercussions that still resonate today. Out of this world, it was just so excellent. I feel like if you know who Medgar and Myrlie Evers are, read it. If you don't know who they are, certainly you need to read it. I recommend this book to everybody. It was really kind of interesting to kind of see some of the push-pull in their relationship. Joy Ann Reid did several interviews with Miss Myrlie Evers Williams. Now she's remarried, and also some people from the family, and kind of just like set the groundwork for Myrlie being stressed about her husband doing this dangerous work and being worried for him and their kids and everything. But like that, she was so in love with this man, so she had to support him and just went through it, and also just the heartbreak of this assassination and how Myrlie Evers kind of became the blueprint for a civil rights widow that later Betty Shabazz and Coretta Scott King would follow. It really was just a really great way to just deepen my knowledge of Medgar Evers and Myrlie Evers, and I just was so impressed by it. 5 out of 5 stars easily, very easy to give that, and again, I recommend it to everybody. If you don't know who they are, please, this is the good book to kind of introduce you to them. The next book I have is Our Kids, The American Dream in Crisis by Robert D. Putnam. Quick little synopsis. A groundbreaking examination of the growing inequality gap from the best-selling author of Bowling Alone, Why Few Americans Today Have the Opportunity for Upward Mobility. I'm added to my reading list. I haven't read that one. It's the American dream. Get a good education, work hard, buy a house, and achieve prosperity and success. This is the America we believe in, a nation of opportunity, constrained only by ability and effort. But during the last 25 years, we have seen a disturbing opportunity gap emerge. Americans have always believed in the equality of opportunity, that is, that all kids, regardless of their family background, should have a decent chance to improve their lot in life. Now the central tenet of the American dream seems no longer true, or at least much less true than it was. Robert Putnam, about whom The Economist said, his scholarship is wide-ranging, his intelligence luminous, his tone modest, his prose unpretentious and frequently funny, offers a personal but also authoritative look at this new American crisis. Putnam begins with his high school class of 1959 in Port Clinton, Ohio. By a large and vast majority of those students, our kids went on to live better lives than those of their parents. But their children and grandchildren have had harder lives amid diminishing prospects. Putnam tells the tale of lessening opportunity through poignant life stories of rich and poor kids from cities and suburbs across the country, drawing on a formidable body of research done especially for this book. Our Kids is a rare combination of individual testimony and rigorous evidence. Putnam provides a disturbing account of the American dream that should initiate a deep examination of the future of our country. This book was released in 2015. So there's already been even more. You've already seen the gap even widen more in the past 10 years. I kind of stumbled on this book randomly. I was in the library grabbing something else, and I saw the book jacket copy, and I said, oh, this looks interesting. Let me pick it up. I just read Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond, and I was going to be reading Evicted soon. It's actually the book I just finished a couple weeks ago. And I said, let me just pick up and read it. I've been more interested in terms of like the economic states of this country, especially kind of after the COVID pandemic. You've just been seeing inequalities that were already existing just continue just to kind of have like a flashlight on them and widen even more. And also just for me personally, as I've been been becoming an adult in this period, obviously being an adult, you have to be more aware of like economic stuff kind of happening. And so I've just been more and more interested in it, and I really was like just fascinated to see like, not fascinated, but just interested to see like what this person put into it. And yeah, it's just a really well written, intriguing research text that I feel like is so timely for everyday people. And most people are asking that question: what is this American dream we've been talking about? Is it actually still attainable? Like, what are we doing? What can we do to like get back to that place where we have it again? And I give that 4 to 5 stars. Very, very good. My next book on this list is a very short book called Black and Female Essays by Tsitsi Dangarugamba. This book came out in 2023. Very short book, like 100 pages or so. Quick synopsis. Here we go. This is a quote from the book. The first wound for all of us who are classified as Black is empire. In Black and Female, Dangarugamba examines the legacy of imperialism on her own life and on every aspect of the Black embodied African life. This paradigm-shifting essay collection weaves the personal and political in an illuminating exploration of race and gender. Dangarugamba recounts a painful separation from her parents as a toddler, connecting this experience with the ruptures caused in Africa by human trafficking and enslavement. She argues that after independence, the ruling party in Zimbabwe only performed inclusion for women while silencing the work of self-actualized feminists. She describes her struggle to realize her ambition in theaters, film, and literature, laying out a long path of the publication of her novels. At once philosophical, intimate, and urgent, Black and Female is a powering testimony of the pervasive and long-lasting effects of racism and patriarchy that provides an ultimately hopeful vision for change. Black feminists are the status quo's worst nightmare. Dangarugamba writes, our conviction is deep, boistered by a vivid imagination that reminds us that other realities are possible beyond the one that obtains. I just wrote my little review of it. Short, educational, powerful, and important. I saw another review say, Dangarugamba tackles empire and colonialism with its seemingly endless tentacles in a direct and compassionate collection of essays. Through each essay, Dangarugamba pieces out how the macro events have structured our micro existences. A great read for those interested in feminism, history, decolonization, and race. And I really couldn't have said it better. It really, like I said, a really short book that packs a punch and is just really excellent examination on things. I give that a 4 out of 5. The final book I read in March 2024 is Walk Through Fire, a memoir of love, loss, and triumph by Sheila Johnson. This was a book recommended by someone in my book club. That's the only reason why I didn't know who she was at all, and I read it and I actually liked it. But let's give you a synopsis. The co-founder of BET, which is the Black Entertainment Television, and first African-American woman billionaire, shares her deeply personal journey through love and loss, tragedy and triumph. An inspiring story of overcoming toxic influences, discovering her true self, and at last finding happiness in her work and life. From humble beginnings to a schoolgirl and young violinist in Maywood, Illinois, Sheila Johnson rose to become one of the most accomplished businesswomen in America. A co-founder of BET, she became an entrepreneur and philanthropist at the highest levels. But that success came at a painful personal cost. Sheila grew up in a middle-class family that encouraged her to love the arts and music, but her idyllic childhood ended at age 16 when her beloved father announced he was leaving for another woman. an act that shattered her mother and destroyed Sheila's trust. She vowed she'd never be in her mother's position, dependent on a man for her sense of self-worth and for financial security. Yet when she was barely out of her teens, Sheila married a man who would take her down that same unfortunate path. Filled with sharply drawn, emotional, powerful scenes, Wildfire traces hardships Sheila faced in her marriage and her professional life. Despite her skills as a violinist and music teacher, as well as her obvious entrepreneurial talent, she had to fight to overcome self-doubt and fears of failure. Sheila vividly details her struggles, including battling institutional racism, losing a child, suffering emotional abuse in her 33-year marriage, and plunging into a deep depression with her divorce. And yet, out of that pain came renewed purpose and meaning. In the third act of life, Sheila Johnson has not only made her mark as the founder of Salamander Hotels and Resorts, and as the only Black female co-owner of 3 professional sports teams, she has also finally found true love. Walk Through Fire is a uniquely American success story, and it is a deeply personal portrait of one woman who, despite heartache and obstacles, finally found herself and her place in the world. So, like I said, this book was recommended by someone in our book club. We read it it was our March book. And I wouldn't have probably read it otherwise than that. I always usually read memoirs of people I usually know, so I didn't know her at all. I didn't know anything about the founders of BET. So I was quite surprised. I quite enjoyed this book. And there are several revelations in this book, at least to me. Apparently some of these things have been kind of like on the street, especially in DC and other circles, about some of the things she went through and some of the things, particularly in her marriage. So I was kind of like, at some points in the book, my mouth was just open. I kept saying like, oh, Sheila, because I really connected with her like kind of right away. I guess I should say the book came out in 2023, end of 2023. So I was really like reading, and I felt like, some of these things like were just coming out, but I found out later that they actually were known. Like some of these cheating scandals, things like that, were actually kind of known, and people knew who it was. So it was really kind of interesting, and just being like, Sheila, like wanting to shake her, like, Sheila, please, like, leave this man, stop doing this, yada yada. But it was cool to see her kind of fight through. Again, like they said in the synopsis, her father left when she was a teenager, just up and left, and her mother was basically was completely financially dependent on him. He was a doctor, and she had to basically pivot and figure out how she was going to continue to take care of Sheila and her brother and that whole situation, and also kind of seeing how Sheila used her entrepreneurial spirit, as they said, just to kind of push forward in terms of her music she was doing. She played violin for many years and taught orchestras and did all types of things, which was really kind of cool. And then obviously became like even bigger scale when she got the BET money after her divorce. So yeah, just the book can create a lot of good discussions. When we had our book club meeting, we were on the meeting for a while. Everyone was talking and back and forth with it. And there's a lot of things to chat about in terms of like the personal, but also professional. There's a lot of good stuff in there. I give that a 4 out of 5. So that is my books. I read in March 2024, 6 books. I'm not sure if I said this at the beginning of the video, but I had another book that I said I was going to be done with, was going to be my 7th book of the month. It's another Matthew Desmond book, and I said, yeah, I'll finish it by March, certainly. But I ended up finishing it on April 1st. I didn't really do much of it on the 31st, and I finished another third of it on the 1st, essentially. That's going to be in my next video, my next April video. But yeah, those are my 6 books. Like I said, most of them were, other than Wildfire, I guess, most of them were really good picks, and I'm happy I read them. I've already read a couple more already for April, and I have a couple more, coming down the pipeline. But yeah, if you have any book recommendations, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm always taking recommendations. Have you read any of these books? Do you want to read any of these books? If you want to, or talk about them some more, feel free to comment that as well. We can chat. And yeah, thanks again for watching and being here. I will see you guys in my next one. I have something exciting coming very, very soon. So kind of stay tuned for that. Subscribe, that whole kind of thing. It's kind of cringy. I hate saying that. But, if you want to see what's happening, feel free to, click in and we can talk more about these kind of things and other things as well. So, yeah, I will stop rambling and let you guys go. Thanks for making it to the end of this video if you did. And I'll talk to you guys later. And see you guys later. I guess virtually some kind of way. I don't know. See ya. Bye-bye.